Tonight, greetings, fellow travelers. As the week reaches its thrilling midpoint, we are broadcasting from the mountains of West Virginia. Embrace the spirit of adventure as you join us on this daring journey through the untamed wilderness of Let's Find Out with Diego. Bonus Overdrive Wednesday.
It's time to find out with Diego. Let's go. Ooh, yeah.
On this episode of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, magic weaves through the fabric of reality with the newest release from our guest, an author, martial artist, and former professional wrestler. Known for spinning tales that blend old-style horror with a dash of humor, he introduces readers to Papa Gumbo. This mesmerizing story follows a young man who forges a bond with a voodoo witch doctor, embarking on a journey that would transform him into a shaman poised to reign over the mystical realms of voodoo. Prepare to be swept away on an adventure that will keep you on the edge of your seat until the very last page. All this plus more. Please welcome to Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, author Jeb Shook. Jeb, my friend, brother Dice, welcome to the show.
Thanks, it's good to be here. It's been a little bit.
It has been, man. This is the first episode of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday for 2025. I'm excited to see where the show goes. And as always, man, you're always there to help me. We're going to talk about Papa Gumbo here in a little bit. Now, with that book recently being released, what is your number 4 book now, or going 5?
That would be number, I believe that's number 4.
Right, with number 4. And for our friends and listeners that may not be too familiar with your work, and I think by now fans of the show are, but those that are just recently tuning in, let's start from the very beginning. We're going to walk through the book starting with Tempest, and let's give a quick overview what Tempest is all about.
Yes, sir. Tempest was my very first book, the one I didn't know how to write a book, so I just came up with a bunch of ideas, and I figured it out. But Tempest is about a cobbler or a shoemaker, and he's living with his wife and his family in a place called Brom in Transylvania. But unfortunately, he dies, and he comes back as a we call them vampires, but the old Slavic tale, they're more like a blood-sucking zombie type character, which is what the type of vampire that he is. And he pretty much stalks his town, and he's circling the town at night, feeding on bodies, saving his family for last. And at the very end, that's where the hero, a African monster hunter named Akachi, shows up, and that's when they have to do their battle to see who wins.
And which is beautiful because you really left on that one, which brings in Akachi.
Oh yeah, actually, it's funny because I wrote the books in reverse. You think I'd start with the first book, but instead I started with the third. There's 4 in the series, and I started with the third and worked backwards. But Akachi is a small child that was raised in Ghana. I think I'm saying that right, in Africa. And after his family is slaughtered by a group of vampires, he is actually saved by the original master vampire killer, a guy named Semi. Together, he grows up with Semi, and Semi trains him to become the next hunter. And once Semi passes on, Akachi is alone, but he still knows of different dangers, and he still is sent by God to fight. So once he finds out that Tempest exists, he heads to Brom so that he can fight and end Tempest.
Now, with that, because I know, and I wouldn't really too much about, I guess, doing a prequel in a second, because a lot of the Hollywood movies right now, even in series, they'll do prequels, and it gives you a little more in-depth of that character, that certain one, and tells you a backstory to him, which I think Akachi does very well. And then the third book, not in that timeline, but something a little bit different, drawing from your time as a professional wrestler, which actually is when I first met you. I think it was in I want to say, was it late 90s, early 2000s?
Somewhere in that general time frame, yeah.
And there was this dude that was running shows out of Roxborough, Cat.
And yes, sir.
What was the name of that? Was it PWA's? No,
Piedmont Championship Wrestling, I believe.
Piedmont Championship Wrestling. He used to run out of Roxborough, out of the, I think it was an armory of, like most independent shows are. And and I'll always say that the first 2 times I was there, actually, they had you and I start the shows because we were tearing it up with I like to say a good storytelling, good mechanics, and a good solid wrestling match. And I really thank you because it was those 2 matches that got me there. I don't know, I think it was there for about 2 years.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I always had fun because they had a lot of the big bruisers and a lot of high flyers. Me and you were kind of that in between size. We were a little bit too big to be the high flyers, but we're a little too small to be the bruisers. So we got in there and we actually, technically wrestled each other, and we really had the crowd behind us. And I think that's one of the shows we can honestly say we probably had some of the better matches.
Absolutely. And the reason I bring that up is because when we're talking about Gluteus Maximus, I also met him there at I think he did a couple of shows there in Roxborough. Or was it Caesar? Caesar had a hell of a gimmick, man. He drew a lot of heat.
Yeah, he was. I think it was Caesar that was at Piedmont, and I think you probably met Gluteus. Maybe with Power Pro. I'm not sure because he was all over the place. He wrestled a lot of venues, but I don't think he did cat stuff. I don't think.
Well, and come to think about it, I think you're right. Because I actually got to work him once with over there, Jimbo there, and there in Power Pro Wrestling in Carolina. And the reason, again, that's the reason I bring that up is because you draw from your wrestling past and you bring in a character who's already established in the indies of Gluteus Maximus, and somehow you meshed your story writing with him. Tell us about that story.
Well, luckily, we were enemies in the wrestling world, but outside of the wrestling world, we're really good friends. And we, I don't talk to a lot of the guys I used to wrestle with today, but Sandy is one of the few guys I still keep in contact with. And without knowing what I was doing, he gave me permission to use his name. And my idea was I would come up with 2 combatants. Gluteus Maximus, which was his character, was going to be the greatest Roman soldier on the planet. And my character became a Spartan warrior, kind of like Leonidas. And the basic premise is that Rome wanted to expand its empire and it invaded Greece. And while they were trying to fight back, my character got trapped and taken prisoner. And when he got back to Rome, he actually had to do like 10 fights to try to win his freedom back in the Colosseum. And the finale is that if he could win all 10 fights, he would get to face Gluteus Maximus. And if he could take down Gluteus, he was a free man. So, he had to do a lot of fighting in that book.
Well, I was kind of thinking about that now with the fighting, and I'm sorry I don't recollect, but I did enjoy the story very much. Was it like a round robin style, or was like a King of the Ring type of as he ascends during these matches?
Yeah, each fight he got, they'd bring the best of a certain style of fight in. Like a guy might fight wearing chains, a guy might fight with swords, a guy might fight with using animals, a guy might fight with a horse and carriage. Each time he won a fight, the stakes went up a little bit harder and the odds against him a little bit more. So it's kind of like the 12 labors of Hercules. It's like the 10 labors of rolling dice because he has to survive these different fights. And if he loses one fight, he dies. So it's, all or nothing for him at this point.
Yeah, funny enough, the name Rolling Dice sounds very familiar to me.
Yeah, I don't know where I got that from.
So, which brings the question to where you wrote books up until that time. You talk about the Gluteus Maximus and Rolling Dice books, ancient times, but you also write about books about supernatural type things and maybe a little bit on the paranormal side of things. I would say naturally, why didn't you start writing books about pro wrestling during the indies or your time during that? Were you done with that chapter in your life and wanted to move on to something different? You didn't want to write about that?
Honestly, when I was wrestling, we had a wrestler called Scrapyard Dog. He actually wrote a book and he actually did a very good job on it. I got thinking if he could do it, maybe I could do it. But when I got out of wrestling, really, I don't watch it much now. I got friends who watch, but it's changed a lot and I'm just not into it like I used to be. And I've got other hobbies and other interests. So, I've always liked horror and, scary movies and things like that and Halloween. So I just kind of went where my interest was just started writing books about, more or less, for the exception of Gluteus Maximus and Rolling Dice, more or less, most of the books are, horror based.
Right. And that's as close as wrestling as you got with the Gluteus book, right?
It is, because I kind of put it together like a wrestling match. I'm actually thinking about making a book called Power Pro Wrestling. It's not going to be the exact way everything actually happened, but it's going to be a book loosely based on that. So eventually I hope to get that done, and it'll be pretty much a book about a wrestling promotion starting up, doing its shows, having its stars, and then having its final match.
Right. Now, are you going to draw and use some of the character names from that time, or are you just going to be a little bit inventive with some of the characters' names?
I'm a bit of both. I don't want to use anybody's, gimmick names directly. So I might use part of a name, or I might just create a different character to stand in for that person. But it's going to be a little bit of both. But I don't want anybody who was actually at the show. So we used to have really big crowds. I don't want anybody to read the book and think this is like a documentary of what happened. It's a fictional story based on us having that promotion. So, there might be a little something added to it that maybe didn't necessarily happen.
Oh yeah, I understand that. That's part of the great storytelling, though, because some people think, did it happen? Did it not happen? But I guess we'll let them, surprise them with that. They can figure it out. Yeah, they can figure that out.
If not, I'm sure anybody in the local area will probably run me down and want to ask them 1,000 questions. So,
well, they probably will find you. It's social media now. I know when we were wrestling the dark ages of the 90s, we were really hard to get a hold of. And I think that's how actually I got away with a lot of things that maybe I shouldn't have gotten away with.
Probably.
No, I mean, it was all good. It was the best times of my life. I wouldn't trade it for the world, other than the pains and the surgeries and crying to get out of bed. We're gonna move forward on this because now with the new book, Papa Gumbo. I love the name of the book, and I love the artwork of the cover. It kind of reminds me of a certain wrestling character in the past, but it takes on its own life. So where did the idea of Papa Gumbo come from?
From that same character you're talking about. When I was a kid, one of the bad guys I really liked was a guy called Papa Shango, which of course was the Godfather, but just the whole character behind that with the voodoo magic, and he had the skull. I remember one time he made Mean Gene Okerlund's arm bleed. Just a lot of cool stuff. So I started looking into that and looking into the lore. And a lot of people, I don't think understand is that what you think of voodoo is not really voodoo. It's the Hollywood version. Voodoo is nothing more than a religion. It's not dark magic and all that stuff, but that's why I portrayed it like everybody else does. So I looked into it, and I started making a Baron Samedi type character. He grew up in poverty. He meets Baron Samedi. He actually goes from Haiti to the United States, and he starts the whole voodoo culture in North America, in Louisiana, and kind of takes over the whole state.
And going back to that character you're talking about, do you remember that one when the warrior was cutting a promo and started bleeding?
Yes, it wasn't that from his hair or his head or something. Had that stuff coming out of his skin.
It was from the hairline, yeah.
Yeah, that was. I still don't know how they did it. That was awesome.
I mean, it was great timing. I think now, looking back, I was a fan of the gimmick, but I don't think it fit in at the time. But I think if Papa Shango at his prime, we'll call it, were around now, I think that's $1 million gimmick.
Oh, that would be a superstar today. They thought about bringing him back. They had brought the Godfather in, and they were going to redo the gimmick and bring him back. And I watched a podcast on him, and he said, and at the last second, all of a sudden he showed up and went, "No, you're comma," and they sent him out as a human fighting machine or something, and he joined the Nation instead of doing a Papa Shango gimmick, which I think was a waste because that was a forgettable character. If they had brought Papa Shango back, that could have been a great heel to run against everybody at the time.
Oh, absolutely. Even though, I mean, the whole train was pretty big, but I think it kind of, I don't know, I didn't enjoy it quite as much as Papa Shango. And going back to the book with Papa Gumbo, where did you do your research when it came as far as developing the character, giving it a name, and then, studying what voodoo is all about?
Really, I just got online. I looked up a lot of stuff on voodoo. If you're ever interested in looking up, there's a lot of stuff on how it's laid out, the gods, how they do everything, what their belief system is. I come up with the idea of Papa Gumbo just because it's going to be in Louisiana, which is where Gumbo was from. So I figured, I looked up the name and I didn't see anybody else using it. So I figured it was a safe name to go with, but nobody come back and try to say I stole it from them. But So, in the book, he actually creates Gumbo. He invents it in the book and uses his spells to turn people into zombies, but it tastes really good. So he introduces it to the town, the people he lives around. They start making it too, but because they're not witch doctors, they just enjoy the flavor and eat a new soup. But yeah, it was interesting to learn about a lot of the voodoo stuff and just get to mix it together, because a lot of the characters' names I use are actually, I think I'm Loy, Loa, Loa. I can't, I'm terrible at words. You can hear my voice, but yeah, a lot of those are like real aspects of the voodoo religion I kind of played into the book.
And then that book is you went through Zombie Media with Thomas Markham, right?
Yes, sir.
He's awesome, ain't he? He's always
he gets stuff done, man. Everything I send to him, he makes it better, makes the book look good. I mean, gets it published. He is on top of his game.
That he is, because he was the publisher of pretty much all your books, minus Tepe's, because you already came in with Tepe's.
Yeah, he's done everything ever since.
Right, and I would definitely, for the listeners of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday that want to know more about Thomas Markham and Zombie Media, just go to the Facebook or talk to Jeb. He'll let you know where you can. He'll see, hit the links, support Zombie Media, because they have not only awesome folks like Jeb, but they have other authors as well, like Dustin Grammer as well as on their.
He's got a great book out.
Yeah, great short story horror movies. He also makes those Terror Tuesday reels. All great guys, man. I really love what you guys all do. And then wrapping up the part with Papa Gumbo, did you leave it? I have not read it. I do have it. I downloaded it. Did you leave it open for something more? Or is this one of those open and shut stories?
Papa Gumbo is definitely open for more. He has his I don't want to say this, the good guy and the bad guy at the same time. He has to battle, but yeah, at the very end of it, it's open where he can continue on.
The story always has to continue, man, because it's like just like any 70s or great 80s horror movies, or you gotta give somebody a comeback, man. The bad guy's got to come back.
Yep, you can't have a story or a franchise or anything if you get rid of the star of the show. So got to keep them going.
Yeah, well, you're the star of the show, man. You keep going because you're still writing stuff. We were, talking before the show. You got things coming out, but then you surprised me with something. Per usual, a different kind of storytelling coming out, different kind of book. You wrote a children's book, and the idea came from something that you didn't even think about where it came from.
No, the idea for this book, I write all these horror books, and I got a book out called Everyone Picks Their Nose. I went with my girlfriend's best friend and her family to Florida in 2024, and we stayed at this resort. We got to see like alligators were literally like we walked up to alligators in the pond. It was really cool the way the whole thing worked out. But her grandbabies are a set of twins. They're about 4.5 years old, and their nose just ran the whole time. And they just couldn't keep their fingers out of their nose. And so I'm sitting there and I'm looking at them. I'm like, at first it's kind of gross, but then you realize they're kids, you get watching them. It's actually kind of comical. And I just got the idea to write a book, and I just put Everybody Picks Their Nose. And that's why at the very end of the book, I credit both the kids in the back.
Yeah. It's funny because, kids do these things, but let me tell you, because I know you commute to work, I commute to work, and sometimes during traffic, you peek to the left or the right. There's somebody in there knuckle deep and digging for a little gold, man.
Yeah, I think they got that windshield of invisibility. They think nobody can see them in their car, but yeah, we see you guys picking your nose. You
gotta do it. You gotta do it like real stealthy. Like you gotta make sure. Maybe you use the pinky with your cocaine fingernail. Just. But it's not just the kids, but no, everybody picks their nose. Beautiful. And was that released self-published, or was that through Zombie?
Yeah, Zombie actually, they do horror. So I actually asked them if they knew anybody did kids books. And they're like, well, we can do a kids book. I'm like, okay, that works for me. So, they did a good job. It's a little bit of an oversized book. It's got great illustration for kids. The couple of kids that I've shown it to so far absolutely love it. And out of all the books I've written, this has got to be the best-selling book I've got. I've got everybody I know on Facebook, let me know they're buying it for the kids, and everybody so far seems to have loved it. So maybe I should have been a children's author instead of a horror writer because it seems to be doing better.
Well, there's something to that because I know that the young adult or children's books is a big deal now, but I think that you hit on something new there, brother, and I think you should keep on going. Don't kill the heat, as they say.
Yeah, I got a couple other ideas lined up they're not completely finished yet, but they're getting there, and they're going to be similar to that book. So I got at least 2 or 3 more I could do off of the ideas I've got written down right now.
So, I mean, I noticed you released 2 books within, a month or 2 of each other?
Yeah, it was the Papa Gumbo, and Everybody Picks Their Nose was literally within a few weeks.
And with that being said, and I know your keyboard fingers are pretty much tired at this point, what kind of stuff are you going to be writing about next?
I've got one called The Ride I'm working on. That's, again, most of my books have been a little smaller, like short stories. I'm going to start expanding into more novel-sized books. But this is going to be about a group of people riding in the West Virginia mountains on ATVs. They're getting attacked by the Mothman. That'll be a nice little nod to where we'd like to go ride at with my ATV group. I've got a slasher called Solomon Jacks I'm working on. He's going to be in the Louisiana Bayou, and he's got a big meat hook and a logging chain. And I'm not going into too many details because I really don't have the whole thing written yet, but he's going to be my slasher. There's only so many different ways you can write a slasher, like Jason and Michael and Leatherface, but he's going to be kind of in that same genre, just try to be a little different with him. I wish I had my papers in front of me. I've got so much stuff written down that I've got to play catch up on. But yeah, I'm hoping to release a bunch of books next year. It's just sitting down and writing that much, it's time consuming.
I'm sure it is, and I know with no spoilers. So, what was the name of that character? Because it sounds pretty badass already.
Solomon Jacks.
Solomon Jacks, man.
Yeah, I got a funny story with his name because my whole idea behind him was DC has a character called Solomon Grundy. That's how I got the name Solomon. And if you've ever watched that movie Rock of Ages, it's like a musical with 80s music. It's got Tom Cruise in it. I don't know if you've ever seen that or not.
I have not, but I know it was a musical with some guy who used to be on American Idol, but he didn't win.
Yeah, I think so. It's got Julian Huff in it. It's pretty much they sing a lot of 80s rock anthems in it. It's a really good movie. But Tom Cruise played a character called Stacey Jacks. He's kind of like a Bon Jovi type character, and I stole his last name Jack. So that's really the lame way I got that name put together. But I just got thinking, how can I do this differently? Because there's only so many ways you can do a slasher. They're all very similar. But mine's gonna wear like an alligator hide mask. He's got a different weapon. He's in a different location, but still going to be the same process of, just killing everybody that comes through the swamp. So he's similar but different.
I mean, if the alligator don't kill you, it'll be Solomon Jacks. Solomon will. So for the listeners of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday that want to learn more about you and learn about all the books that you have out, I know they're through Zombie Media. How can they find out more about what you're going to be doing and where you're going to be?
They can look me up on Facebook. Just look J.E. Shook. Go on Instagram again, J.E. Shook. ZombieMediaPublication.com. You can go on Amazon, look up author J.E. Shook. Most of the books there are mine. There's another guy with that name, and he's got a couple of books that aren't mine, but you can check him out too if you want. But if you just pretty much go online, type in my name, J.E. Shook, and I should pop up.
Excellent. You are on Facebook. You're also on Instagram as well.
Yes, sir.
Love it, my brother. And one more thing I just pointed out. You talk about Solomon Jacks, talking about creating character names. You almost kind of did like most wrestlers do, because I think with wrestling, people take some of their heroes from movies or music or from books, and they switch around names like the first names and last names and just mash it up and come up with a whole different kind of character name. So I think you did it beautifully on that one, my friend.
Yeah, there's there used to be a group here I used to watch as a teenager called Omega, and I don't really want to name drop the two guys that started that became big stars in the WWE, but one of them called themselves Wolverine, and they had another guy that made it, the guy in the Mean Street Posse. His name was Joey Abs. He actually went as Colossus for a while and then became Venom. So it's like they were using Marvel characters the entire time. That's not where they necessarily got them from, but it's just kind of weird the way it worked out. But yeah, so I mean, a lot of guys just look for stuff.
Yeah, it's true, man. You know, wrestling, man, there's nothing new under the sun. We like to borrow things and make it our own, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Excellent, man. And, you know, when you release your next book or novel, please come on the show. We're going to talk about it. We're going to promote it. And always a pleasure having you on. And again, you know, I'd like to thank you because on Let's Find Out, not only were you our first guest ever on that show, but now you're also on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, our first guest of 2025.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to be here, and it's good to see everybody's growing. I'm growing. I think zombie media is growing. Your podcast is growing. So big things in the future. Hopefully, more, a lot more, you know, yet to come.
Very true, my friend. This has been another excellent episode of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. Please check us out on all our social media pages. Catch us on YouTube and Rumble. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Until next time, my friends.
All content on this broadcast is a property of Diego the Podcaster and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, Diego the Podcaster, or Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. The information shared on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.